of law, yes, that though we are trying to practice it in context, somehow we are just halfway through because we are not able to carry it fully. Now, back to Ghana for instance, Mr. President, you are Ghanaian, so you will remember this. Recently, there is an issue within the NPP political party where one of their own, I don't want to mention names, show contempt to the court based on some land issue which I believe you are aware of. You come to believe that when you try to penalize that the person at fault so that they can bring sanity into the judicial system ahead of the 2020 election so that the people of Ghana will still have faith in the political system, it has turned into something else. The registrar of that cause has been transferred to the central region, as we all know. And so now I've still stand to believe that nothing better has been done about it. Now, we, the leaders of those African countries, because they don't apply to this rule of law, the individuals who are living in the country also refuse to adhere to it. Like the secessionist issue that I raised earlier in my introduction. It is not the best thing that we have to be seeing in Ghana so far, having our independence in 1957 to date. At least I believe that we have gone beyond those situations as to know the various mechanisms that is the right mechanisms that needs to be used to deal with issues. And besides, when you look at the secessionist issue that happened in recent times, you realize that some of the regions that of communities that have partaken in that issue were not even part of the plebiscite that happened in 1956. And for that matter, we don't know what exactly they are gearing up. Is it that the law is weak? Then if we are believing that the law is weak, what makes it weak? So that those who are supposed to uphold the laws are not doing what they are supposed to do. Some time past we hear of goats where we begin to issue fact that judges take votes from people just to bend the laws in their favor. I don't think those are the things that we need to do when we are saying that we are going with the rule of law. In recent times, I believe in 18th of August, just this few days ago, we saw what happened in Mali, where Goiti, if I'm right, okay, the government was toppled. I believe we all are aware of what happened there. And on the 21st of September, I think that was 21st of September, an interim management was given out and the blah blah blah. Well, of course, if a president is not doing the right thing, I believe there are better means of going about it and not to hold guns and begin to kill people. At the end of the day, a lot of people were dead and some were injured just in the name of trying to change the government because he's not doing the right thing. In a democratic state or a state that practices constitutionalism, I believe there are better ways of changing a government than a few military officers taking the laws into their own hand and then causing the lives of some individuals in the state. Now let us go back to our very friends those around us here in Ghana, Ivory Coast. The lives of Alassane Ouattara, a president of the Ivory Coast from 2010, now trying to file for another third term. The constitution, the opponents believe that that is against the constitution, since the constitution only endorses a 2-term. Now, how can we say we are practicing constitutionalism or the rule of law if we refuse to adhere to the dictates of the constitution? The constitution is there to make sure that we are all safe. And if one person begins to flout the constitution, and for that matter, someone of such caliber as just a president who have just finished serving his term to want to come back, it's untold and shouldn't be accepted in our African anatomy. By far, about 15 people were dead in Ivory Coast and more than 100 people were injured just because he has decided to come back to power. Meanwhile, somewhere in 2010, we saw the number of people that were dead and injured just because Gbagbo refused to give him power. So why would you be the one to stir the atmosphere so much iron bars and chaos? So what I deliver is that we are going by the constitutionalism of the law. We should accept that the rule of the law is above everyone. Its supremacy should not be questioned. The framers of the constitution knows very much what the state needs at the time. And even if it happens that probably some of the proposed and articles in the constitution does not favor our modernity or our interim situation, then there is a better way of going about them, and that is sitting down, forming a committee, and then amending them to suit our present situation, and not to take the laws in our own hand and cause havoc. The rule of law, because we are not adhering to it fully, it has caused African to backstage in so many things. Instead of us to progress, we are retrogressing. We are not moving forward as a people, and I think our leaders need to sit down. And this is not just the call of the leaders. This is the call of we those who are here as well, and our fellow colleagues in the African anatomy. It can take just a word from our mouth to stir the whole atmosphere and bring about chaos. So whatever we say as people, we need to also know that in as much as the rule of law has given us the fundamental human rights and the right to speak without being questioned or whatsoever, we should also mind whatsoever we speak in our public spaces and even in our hidden places to make sure that sanity flows in society and as we try to uphold the flags of Africa. Thank you very much.
A very great presentation from our own panelist, Mr. Peter Jipanum, who has given us a full insight about the rule of law and how it should operate. Indeed, the rule of law should operate in a place and in a system where there is equality. You can't move and expect disaggregational lines in our anatomy. We need equality. And the rule of law is made of order. So if indeed we want to see a progression, we want to see stability and freedom, we want to see that maybe everyone has sufficiency wherever he is or wherever he or she abides, we must see to that it's equality, there is order. Our systems are well embedded, are well founded for everyone to operate freely. And we thank you very much, Minister Pidio, for giving us this insight. Really give us a lot of in-depth analysis about the rule of law. So we want to now know from Mr. Oliver the importance of the rule of law in anatomy. We want to know whether it's indeed needed and the essence it will have in our anatomy, in our continent, and how we should indeed hold on to the rule of law in our anatomy. We want to know, maybe the rule of law is not needed, it may be, but we still want to know from him the whole anatomy, the whole issue about this rule of law and whether we should uphold it or we should leave it. Right from what Mr. Pidio has said, we want to know from him, Mr. Oliver, how significant is the rule of law in our anatomy? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, Giants. Rule of law and the importance of it, the 7 cores that we should always consider. Those are the most important ones, and those are the ones that if our continent, if our governments, if our leaders, mostly the politicians and the judicial, can uphold to those cores, those 7 cores, it will give us exactly the proper direction. But before I go there, I would say we've adopted the rule of law in Africa, not in accordance to how our system as Africans work, because as you can see, all African countries have adopted the rule of law and it is at the heart of their constitutions. But actually, there is a problem whereby we're not using it as something that is so variable to the people and the citizens, and that is keeping accountable to every citizen, including the leaders themselves. So you can see that there is really a challenge to the rule of law in Africa, whereby because we have adopted the European system of rule of law, not the way it should govern us as Africans. Because remember, as Africans, we have our own way of doing things in a traditional way. So combining it with democracy that comes with the rule of law, there was supposed to be a certain way of adopting and transplanting that system so that it can work perfectly for us as Africans. But eventually we've seen that we've lived a lot of our practices, which eventually most of the time crashes with the way we deal with our situation when it comes to the rule of law. So as you can see that even our leaders, they always take advantage of that and they use it to their best interest. In the process, they infringe the rest of the citizens in the countries where they're leading. Because of that, we are seeing a lot of things that the rule of law, it seems like it's just on a paper, but practically, if you go out there, you see that it's not exactly giving us the potential that we're expecting it to be. Because as we're talking about the rule of law, we're talking about that all citizens. When we say all citizens, we mean whosoever is in that country, whosoever is in the continent of Africa, should be abide by the rules that are governing the country or the continent. So by saying that, we're talking about it does not exclude, it does not leave anyone behind, but it takes all of us and we are serving under it. But eventually in Africa, you've seen that because of the powers that the leaders, they accumulate, the powers that they keep themselves to, and those are the things that I'm saying, because of the traditional practices that have been included in the democracy that we're trying to practice, the democracy that we're trying to grow in, there is still a challenge. So before I go to the importance of it, that's what I just wanted to clarify and to lay it there so that we can understand that there is a potential for Africa to see and to adhere or to enjoy the rule of law, but there has to be some other things that need to be considered. The rule of law, like I'm saying, it will be meaningless if we not gonna adhere to these 7 calls. The first one is the devolution. The devolution, it's whereby the political leaders, they have to subdue themselves. They have to understand that they are not above the law, but they have to come and stand with the citizens and work in line with the rule of law, so that when the judicial system has to pursue any acts or any cases on behalf of the government, they should not have favors or bias, but they have to be independent as the judicial is supposed to. So the devolution is where we have to come on the same level as citizens of each and every country in Africa, whereby the rule of law has to be on top of us and it has to guide us to where we're going. The second one, we're talking about the most important one, transparency. The rule of law, it's very important, and it will give us the best of its ability if we are accountable. If the leaders, if the political leaders, and if anyone in the countries that we're in is accountable for whatever the decisions that they make. We can give an example, and for instance, right now, the issues that are happening in Cameroon, the issues that are happening in Zimbabwe, whereby there is definitely a straight infringement and a straight violation of this transparency, whereby the masses are speaking against the actions of the government, but the government is still trying to cover up the access of freedom or the access of democracy to their citizens. So you can see that there is already a challenge in the process. Third one, it's the equality and the social justice, whereby we're talking about the equality and social justice, whereby you and me, or me and the president, or me and the minister, we have to be treated with the same level of dignity, understanding that we are all citizens, we all vote, we all pay taxes, and we all use the same facilities in the nation that we are in. So because of that, there has to be a way of us being on the same level, on a social level of justice, because that's the only way we can understand and we can enjoy exactly the fruits of the rule of law. And the fourth one is the culture of governance, where I'm talking about the culture of governance. Africa has its own way. We have kings and queens. We have other countries that still up until now, they are ruled by kings. So you can see that even though we have the rule of law, but there is another sector of power that still governs the country, whereby as Africans we are bound to some of our traditions and our cultures, whereby adopting only the European style of governing and the European style of rule of law, it's still jeopardizing the whole system, whereby we're not going to achieve more and enjoy exactly what's supposed to be the rule of law in Africa. Women and citizenship, it's the most key point in the rule of law for us to enjoy, because you should remember, we call this continent Mother Africa. For it to be called Mother Africa, it's because it has embraced all the continent of the world. It's the only continent that has given life to all the continents in the world. The life that we have now, it's because of the mothers. And the mothers have to be prioritized, have to be given a protection that they need. You can see wars that have emerged in Africa for the past 3-4 decades. It's the women and the children who have suffered from the hands and the brutality of the men. But if you ask yourself, in all these countries that we are in Africa, have the women been protected enough? So the rule of law is not going to see much of its importance where we're trying to go, because the women are being sidelined. The women are being still considered as the weak link on the chain of democracy, whereby if we protect them, we can grow quick and fast in our democracy. The fifth one is the women and the migrants. It's the same thing that we're talking about. It's the women has to be protected, the same as the migrants, the ones that leave their countries. There is always a separation of the citizens of the countries, how they are being protected and how they are being saved, and the ones that have come as the migrant workers. So as African countries, they have to understand that democracy is not going to work until all Africans are being treated equally, despite which country they've moved into. As long as they are in the continent of Africa, they have to be treated with a certain level of dignity. We need to understand that they are citizens of the continent. They might not be citizens of the country that they've moved into, but there is a certain level of decency that they have to receive, because they are still in the same continent. Because we should remember that all of us, we've come from different places in this continent of Africa, and because of that, we are one, despite of all the borders that were created and that we did not even participate in the creation of those borders. It makes us to be one. That's why this program, African Voice International, we're speaking of the anatomy of Africa, because we're looking at Africa as one. So because of that, there has to be a way of African countries to consider those who are moving around in Africa, so that they can enjoy the rule of law wherever they go. It can safeguard them, it can give them access to whatever they're looking for, as long as it's in line with the constitution, as long as it's in line with the rule of law in that country. So because of that, we are still, yes, enjoying the rule of law wherever we go, but there is still challenges that needs to be addressed. The last one is the land ownership, access and reforms. This one is a crucial one to most of the African countries, since most of the African countries were being colonized, and there a lot of land that is being still owned by the Europeans. There are a lot of land that hasn't been given back to the owners of the land. The people themselves, they're not entitled to what is theirs. The rule of law is there. Our government, our leaders need to take a little bit of responsibility and to see how far we can go with this. But the problem at the end of all this is because most of our African countries are still under their masters. The colonial masters are still the ones who are making the decisions for us. So until we come out completely as African and be in a true independence, that will still continue. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, sir, and we are really delighted to hear from you and to be enlightened about the significance of the rule of law. You've got to know that through the rule of law, we enjoy a revolution. And the rule of law has a structured set of, systematic arrangement that gives access to everyone to enjoy a set of rules in the anatomy. And we said we enjoy devolution, and we also enjoy a place whereby leaders are to be accountable for whatever they do. Our culture of governance is arranged, and women in citizenship is also a very significant factor whereby they play quintessential roles in governance. And women and migrants are also, appreciated. And we also have land ownership because of the law. We also have a geographical space through which we can also live, have our being, and enjoy good and quality life there because of the rule of law. And that's why we must always learn to appreciate and stand for who we are. Stand for our land and our geographical location in Africa. We shouldn't allow China, Japan, Europe to come and determine how we should rule our nations. We are very grateful, sir, for this broad digestion about the importance of the rule of law. Now we'll go straight to Mr. Abimbola of Nigeria, who's also a panelist and also a member of African Voice National, to explain to us about the features. How would we indeed know that indeed this rule of law, which we've been able to have its digestion from Mr. Pidio Jifanu and also have significance from Mr. Oliver, how would we be able to know that indeed we have a rule of law thriving? What are the features of a rule of law? Mr. Abimbola, we welcome you, sir.
Yeah, I love the topic you have given me, and I really appreciate the facts that I'm being called to make a say on the anatomy of Africa and the rule of law. The features of the rule of law, as we've been taught in various schools, high school, secondary school, and so on, we've been given so many features, But now let's now come to the point of it. I love what Mr. Oliver has said concerning the rule of law, that there are some innovations that he used cover-ups. I'll just use, when it comes to the rule of law, we should know that the rule of law is supreme. or in the African anatomy, rule of law is taking sides. Are you getting me? So with this, let me just say with these few things I've said, I can just say I'm so much grieved about the condition of Africa in totality according to the rule of law. We are not practicing the rule of law. If we are to juxtapose between the rule of law being practiced in the European world and the ones we practice here, you will find that there is nothing called rule of law in Africa. We have no iota of any credential of rule of law being practiced in Africa, and it is damning. See, most of the time I watch the Al Jazeera and some other CNN news, I see Africans protesting in the European world, maybe in America or Canada, or maybe their president should go or something happening in their country, they are protesting from US and UK. It is a very good thing, but it is sickening. If this president, if they actually address the rule of law or they operate the rule of law, if you know you are not doing something right, you should leave. That is checks and balances. You know you are not doing something right, then you should leave, you can resign. But the hardest operation to do in Africa is removing an African president from office. That is the hardest operation you can never do in Africa. I don't think it will be successful. So these are one of the main things we just need to address here in Africa. Rule of law is quite lagging. We are lagging behind. I can't point out any proof facts about the rule of law being adhered to in the African context. It's highly, very, 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 very appalling. I think I have to just address my case according to this, but I want to stress further. I've been receiving some threats. I just have to say this. I've been receiving some threats of listen to when it comes to issues of online like this. I just have to keep to make some sort of short statements. When we are fighting, we have to know how to dodge both times. And I hope we all have a good day. And according to what is happening here right now in Nigeria, I hope you all will all join us. Because I love this screenshot, this thing you have shared on the screen. This actually shows mostly the military men, targeting civilians, and that's what's happening in Nigeria. I wish you can all join us in EXCERPTS protests in Nigeria. But as I said, I'd love to just keep my points very short. I don't want to talk out of the way. I don't want to become another target for any other thing. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Abimbola. I mean, you've really been very precise on the rule of law and its features, and you spoke about the supremacy of the rule of law and how the rule of law should be supreme in every area, in every atmosphere of governance. And you spoke about neutrality. And from all of these, it's so questioning whether indeed the rule of law is thriving in Africa or not. But we'll go to Mr. Pidio, who would go and the rule of law is thriving in Africa, or we are just in some facade system rule in Africa. So, Mr. Pidio Jefanu, we want to know from you: is the rule of law, from what we've seen from you, from Mr. Shenema, from Mr. Abimbola, how would you classify the rule of law in Africa, please? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank my fellow panelists. When we want to look at the rule of law, and we want to pick on the question of whether it's thriving in Africa or not.
Yes, we are with that.
It's a big question. I wouldn't want to create an answer. I would like all of us together to find out if we think the rule of law really is thriving in Africa. While surfing the internet trying to make some field research, I come by one group known as the World Justice Project. Then they try to give an index, and in giving their index, they try to score and rank states who adhere to the rule of law. And then by so doing, they come out with some 8 elements that should be an underlying factor for us to say that this state is going by the rule of law or is not going by the rule of law. So when I take the World Justice Project, I'm looking at their first point where they claim that for a country to be recognized as one that is adhering to the rule of law, there should be on some level of constraint on how the government uses its power. Some level of constraint on how the government uses its power. Now, for me to question that particular statement, I would like to ask us all here, in our various countries within the African anatomy, have we come to realize that there are constraints on how the government uses its power? Don't we come across situations where governments appoint, and whenever it has come to the fact that that person decided to question the government that appoints him based on some issues that went wrong within the political arena of that same administration, they keep them quiet. It's either they are giving you transfer, or it's either they are sacked from duty. They remove you off your post. So one, if these constraints are not working on government's powers, like how governments use their powers are not curtailed by the constitution in any way. For instance, when you look at our Ghanaian constitution, you realize that so much powers have been given to the executive arm of government that they decide to do whatsoever they like at any time with these powers. Is that what exactly the rule of law wants us to do? When in a case here, the government, let's just take our constitution for example. Let me come with this idea. The government appoints the attorney general, the special prosecutor, and the chief justice, right? And those people are supposed to be.
We are still on the One African Dialogue, and we are hearing Mr. Pedro Jefano, who is talking to us about whether the rule of law is really being adhered to, and it's so awesome hearing from him and the various points he's given. Mr. Pedro, we are with you, sir. Mr. Pedro. Hello. Okay, we'll open the platform to everyone to we are getting to the end of time, and we want to know your views also on how the rule of law is in Africa. Is it really being adhered to? Is it credible enough, or we're an emphatic constitutional system? So if you have any suggestion or any view, you could come up and we'll give out your views, please. So we want to know, is the rule of law being adhered to in Africa?
Well, may I have the floor for a moment, please, if you don't mind?
Yes, you could come in, sir.
Okay. First of all, listen, congratulations for organizing this.
Thank you, sir.
Probably I'm almost certain, listening to your voices, that I'm probably the oldest person in the group here. Whatever it is
yes,
you're doing, keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
50 years ago or so, we were the ones carrying on this struggle. The struggle never really ends. But let me just make something clear. I think, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Okay, we have an economic system that provides for free movement of individuals. Unfortunately, we also know there are different times when different countries feel they need to look for a scapegoat. They decide that citizens of a specific country do not belong. So that is a part of the difficulties that we have in Africa. Movement of our people is concerned, our governments are inconsistent. Now, the brother from South Africa also mentioned something about women and also land ownership, and I'll be very brief. Economically, I think one of the reasons that is holding us back is the fact that people who own land do not actually have deep ownership as capital against which to take out a very, very simple loan in the bank to be able to take on an economic venture. So I think the serious thing, you have people say, I own so much land, but can you prove that he owns the land? The land is worth so much. Can you prove that he owns it? What government should do is think about making sure that they actually provide for people who own land the necessary documentation. Because if they have that, as a factor of production, do a lot of things, two things I want to say. And also the brother in Nigeria, Ogunsuwobo, Abimbola, listen, any struggle has got a downside. But you keep in touch. Keep in touch. Right? Keep in touch. It is not a struggle for Nigeria or for Benin or for Guinea or for Mali. It is a struggle for the entire continent and for our sub-region. Yeah. I don't know how many of you know Ghana's history, but the second Speaker of Parliament in Ghana's first republic was a naturalized Nigerian-born Ghanaian citizen. The second Speaker of Ghana's parliament was a Nigerian-born, naturalized Ghanaian citizen. In Ghana's struggle for independence, there were Liberians, there were Sierra Leoneans, there were Nigerians, there were Guyanese, there were Jamaicans. The struggle for Ghana's independence was a pan-Africanist struggle. And that is why when any Ghanaian pretends that a Nigerian is a foreign and needs to run out of the country, that person needs to get his head checked. When it is okay for the Chinese to run our country down, pollute all our water, and yet we see that brother Nigeria with their small store in Kasua or wherever it might be as the enemy, then something is wrong with that continent. Something is absolutely wrong with us. So we need to. You are not a minority. People have come and gone. You pick up the next mantle, hold it up. Even if there are only 12 of you, continue to have these meetings. Continue to have meetings. A revolution, listen to me very carefully, a revolution is not an event. It's a process. A revolution is not something you celebrate on a given day. It's a process that never ends. And sometimes you need to fight with blows, with words, or with both. You cannot want change and be afraid all the time. Because that is how we are where we are today. But let us look at the great things that are happening in the past on our Ghana's independence. In the Ghana's First Republic, the second Speaker of Parliament of the House was a man born in Nigeria who had naturalized as a Ghanaian citizen. But thank you very much and keep up the good work. All right? Keep up the good work. All right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. It's always an honor to have you. It's always a privilege to have you in our dialogues, and we really cherish you and thank you for the quintessential role you play in African Voice International. And we've heard from him concerning how we all must interrelate with each other, and he spoke about Ghana, about how we have various individuals who we must all uphold ourselves wherever we are. We must not try and be divisive when we see other countries and natives in our countries. No, we must all learn to live in peace and unity. Please, if anyone also has any further view, please, you could also come and express your views. We'll take more views before we end the meeting.
Yes, Mr. President, if I can speak from Cape Town.
Yes, please, Sir Oliver.
Yes, actually, I just wanted to add a little bit of previous speakers. Actually, on the question, like, are we, because I remember one giant said, he said, now we cannot completely answer to say, as Africans, we are in the right directions pertaining the rule of law. Is Africa really going into the right direction when it comes to the rule of law? Now, to answer that question might be a little bit of a challenge because we're still seeing a lot of challenges in different countries in Africa. There is more to be done, but still we have really achieved a lot. And we hope that there will be still more years that might come. But as he said, that as a freedom or as revolutionaries, it's not an event, it's a process whereby as we're taking the banner right now, we should expect, as we keep on having these meetings, we should always expect to see results. And how we can measure that, it's by starting engaging with those who have the powers, by engaging with those leaders. The more they receive reports from us, the more they receive some questions from us, and we demand answers from the things that are happening in Africa. We're sure by one day there will be some changes in a lot of areas that we're looking at. Then the rule of law that we're talking about, it will be attained. Yes, it's possible. And we are in the right direction. The only thing that we need to do is to put pressure and to make sure that as it's been stipulated in the Constitution, so it has to be. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome, sir. Wow, it's been very well mind-opening to hear from you and to also know about how indeed freedom is also a process. And this should tell us all how indeed the rule of law must be radically changed upon to see that indeed it's not bringing any kind of division or any kind of humiliation on a party and leaving another party in freedom. That's not freedom. Freedom entails the whole anatomy living in freedom. We must be noted about that and walk that talk that we've all been saying in this meeting. If anyone also has any view, you could also bring out your view as in the last sessions of the meeting and before we come to a conclusion and we end.
I want to share something with you, if you don't mind. Huh?
Yes, please, sir. You can, sir.
I was born to right? I can trace my roots. I can trace my roots to Togo. I can trace my roots to Burkina. I can trace my roots to other parts of West Africa, maybe to Mali, I don't know. But here's what I spent 5 years. I finished high school in the United States. I was born in Ghana, went to high school in the US, returned to Africa to go to university. I went to university in Togo. And when I was in Togo, Togo was the university was 7 years old, it was then. This year it celebrates its 50th anniversary. But I owned a motorcycle, and one time I took a trip across the coast from Lomé to Cotonou, and then I went north along the border of Togo and Benin. And I was shocked at what I discovered. I don't know how many of you are Ghanaians. I went to a province called Atakora province in northwestern Benin. Atakora.
Okay.
You know that's a very common name in Ghana, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In the Atakora province, the names you heard were names you hear in very, very regal Akan families. You heard Yeboah, you heard Opoku, you heard Osei. This is northwestern Benin. Northwestern Benin. Akan names. Akan names. We were never foreigners to each other. We felt like brother and sister before the Europeans came. There is no way a Nigerian should feel like a foreigner in Ghana. There is no way someone from Mali should feel like a foreigner in Niger. There is no way Senegalese should feel persecuted in Guinea. There is no way someone from Zimbabwe should feel like a foreigner in South Africa. It is time for us. It is time for us to go back, read our history, rewrite it.
Please, if anyone also would want to hear from you more, if you have more views on pertaining how the rule of law is and how it should be improved, please voice out your views, please.
Yes, Mr. President, can I come in again? Thank you so much. I just want to concur with Mr. Malcolm. Actually, the last point that he made, whereby he's talking about when someone who is in Togo, he doesn't have to feel like he is a foreign when he comes to Ghana. Someone who is Zimbabwean when he's in South Africa. And the question is, why are we accepting like Chinese to fill our areas, and we don't question why are they coming in, but we do have the nerves, we do have the guts to question our own African brothers and sisters who are coming to our areas. Like I said that time, that we should remember that the freedom that we are enjoying in Africa was fought with the help of other African brothers and sisters from countries in Africa. So if it's the freedom that we're enjoying, let's say in South Africa, we should always remember that there are a lot of countries in Africa. I should not even say a lot, I should say all of African countries, they fought for that freedom. And each and every country in Africa, each and every citizen in Africa should remember that the freedom that they're enjoying in their country, there were lives that were taken, and not only the lives of the citizens of that country, but that was the lives of all Africans who participated in helping to liberate these African countries. So it's something that we need to know, that the rule of law, it starts with us. We can look at the government, we can look at the politicians and question their systems of governing the state, but we should also question ourselves. It's time as Africans we come and embrace the brothers that we have. We come and embrace the sisters that we have, because the rule of law starts with us. If we patronize our brothers, if we protect, if we are the brothers keeper, if we are the sisters keeper, then this rule of law, it will be simple, because whosoever comes into our territory, we're gonna help them, we're gonna receive them as brothers and sisters, and because of that, they will come to respect us. They won't come to destroy anything that we stand for, because we've given them the respect that they need. They come into our territory and they will return the same things. But because most of the time we are trying to separate ourselves, I'm not a South African, I'm a Ghanaian, I'm not a Mozambican, I'm this. So because of that, because of the borders that were created, and we are still clinging to those and thinking that those are the elements that we have always to subject ourselves to. The first thing that we need to consider ourselves, we are the citizens of the continent. Which continent? That is Africa. So the rule of law should start from there. The ownership of the continent, it's where we're talking about. So if we start considering ourselves as the owners, embrace this as African brothers and sisters, the rule of law, it will be easier for us to go into a good direction. Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, thank you very much, Sir
Can
Oliver.
I come in?
You can come in, please. You can come in.
I think this is the best session so far that I've attended.
Okay, I believe that at this end, at this juncture, from what we've seen from Mr. Pidio through to Mr. Oliver, through to everyone, it goes to the fact that we must be nationalistic citizens in our countries. We must uphold our nations. And if we uphold our nation, there's no way we'll defy the laws in our nations because we always have the nations at heart. But in the case whereby we don't respect our nations, we don't uphold our nations, we don't patronize our nations, we always defy our nations, we always defy the laws. We don't care what we do because the nations are not on heart. And when we uphold our nations, then we respect the laws of the country. So we must learn to uphold our nation. We must be nationalistic citizens. We must be patriotic citizens. We must also be people of excellence. We are people of excellence. There are always going to be efficiency in everything we do. We are going to always be productive and have quality results. Yes, we have people who nowadays they close anytime from work. They close about 2 hours before the end of the work. You see people lecturing around. You see people abusing each other. You see policemen assaulting normal citizens. They are doing all kinds of humorous things, and they are being mediocre. They're making bribes, corruption everywhere, going to and fro, and this is killing the rule of law. This is killing our anatomy. But if we stand up and are excellent people, then things will change. So let's learn to be nationalistic. Let's learn to be excellent people, and let's also learn to be patriotic people. Let's also learn to be people of discipline in everything we do. Let's discipline ourselves. Let's always have the nation at heart and learn to discipline ourselves in everything we do. When we discipline ourselves, there's no way we'll also see that indeed we are accepting any kinds of corrupt activities in our way. During elections, there will be right set of virtues that will be put there to see that people do not violate the laws. There will be order everywhere. When we also ensure that there is justice, proper justice method, things will be well. We don't favor certain races, favor certain people. We don't allow people to put their laws in their own pockets who would call themselves politicians. But the law is working for everyone equally. There's equity, and people's human rights are respected. When we do all these things, the rule of law will see to that we're Africans living in freedom as we ought to live. So let's change our dispositions and let's live as people who indeed we have our nations at heart, who care about Africa and who want things to change. Let's make it happen. And I believe that this is the only way that Africa can thrive and that through which order can prevail for everyone to see that he or she is a great human being and not just any mediocre or enslaved human being. It's only when you hold our nations at heart. When you hold your nation at heart, when you hold South Africa at heart, when you hold Congo at heart, when you hold Ghana at heart, you know that your fellow human being is your fellow citizen. And you also treat him as a brother. And you don't do anything that will make him feel less off. Let's respect ourselves and let's act in integrity. Thank you very much. And before we end, if there's any view from anyone, please let us know. But if there's no view, before we end, I'll let us know.
One more point for me. One more point for me, please.
Okay.
I think I've heard a lot of kings speak, but our queens are missing. Let's try and encourage a lot of queens to join us. Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Our next, we are planning the next meeting that is going to be a women's dialogue that will involve ladies in Africa who are going to talk about the role of the woman in the global anatomy, and that will be on 24th October. So we've come to the end of the meeting, and our numbers are on our flyers, so you could call us, and our email addresses also are avi_changemakers@aol.com. So if you have anything, you could send us messages on these platforms, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So we'll leave us all here now, and we'll ask Mr. Oliver to end with a prayer for us, then we end. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. And thank you for the honor and everything that we've done tonight. Let us pray. Dear Lord, we just want to thank you this evening. We just want to thank you for the opportunity of bringing us together. We are far away from each other, but in spirit we are one. And because of that, we want to thank you. You are the one who said, where 2 or 3 have met, you always be there. And we know you were here with us. And because of that, we just want to thank you, because our dialogues, our conversations, our meetings will not just go in vain. These will see us through. I know you'll be the one who's going to take them to a certain level whereby our leaders will be touched by our meetings, whereby our leaders will see the fruits that we're trying to labor here. And because of your help, oh Lord, we're asking you to see us through this week that is coming ahead of us. Protect us, give us the courage. As one of our brothers, Malcolm, said, that we have to move the fear if we want the liberation of our countries to be achieved. And it's only through you where we can remove the fears. And because of you, we know we are strengthened. And because of that, we ask you tonight to protect and give us the courage that we need, because it's not our might, it's not our power, but through your help and through your guidance, that's when we can achieve everything. We thank you, Lord God Almighty, tonight and forever. Amen, giants.
Amen. Thank you very much. African Voice International.
Amen.
Freedom in Africa.
Freedom in Africa.
Okay, thank you all. We love you all, and we'll continue in our next session. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.